Nissan was with the Leaf the pioneer of the modern day electric car. But with their second generation, for its time, they weren't so pioneering anymore. And after the second generation, it got quiet. Quiet for way too long, if you ask me. But now they are back, and this time in a cooperation with Renault. Hello there, monsters and men, ladies and people. This is the Nissan Ariya, and welcome to Recharging. Where the Nissan Leaf is a mid-sized hatchback, which is actually quite refreshing for an electric car, the Nissan Ariya is of course a crossover. But it is not a bad looking crossover if you ask me. It looks futuristic without overdoing it. Here in the front you have these slim headlights and then these boomerang daytime running lights. Of course you have a closed grille because it is an electric car. And there is actually a pattern in the grille if you look closely. And here in the middle is a pretty big but a refreshed Nissan logo. In terms of type of car, the Nissan Ariya actually reminds me a bit of the Volkswagen ID.4. That means you get this short nose, short overhang like an electric car should have. And then to the rear you have this pumped up estate line. Okay, with the Ariya it is more a estate coupe line because the Ariya looks a bit more sporty, but you get the idea. That one and that one are huge, right? I know. As standard, the Nissan Ariya gets 19-inch alloy wheels. These are the 19-inch. As an option, you can also get 21-inch alloy wheels. Those are even bigger because 19 is bigger than 21. Flappy. Here's a flappy. That is the charge port. And I have to say that is one of the worst locations to put a charge port if you ask me. But it is there, so we have to deal with it. Speaking about charging, the Nissan Ariya can take a maximum fast charging speed of 130 kilowatts. It doesn't matter if you have the 63 kilowatt hour version or the 87 kilowatt hour battery pack. Both charge with a maximum speed of 130 kilowatts. Both charge from 10 to 80% in around 40 to 45 minutes. As standard though, you get a two-phase onboard charger and not a three-phase onboard charger like you see on most electric cars. That means you can only charge with, you can charge with 7.4 kilowatts instead of 11 kilowatts. But as an option you can get a 22 kilowatt onboard charger, and not a lot of electric cars have that. As I have already said, the Nissan Ariya is available with two different battery packs, one of 63 kilowatt hours and one of 87 kilowatt hours. The 63 kilowatt hour battery pack is only available in front wheel drive. That version has 218 horsepower, 300 newton meters of torque and can do 0 to 100 in 7.5 seconds. The 87 kilowatt hour battery pack is available in front wheel drive and all wheel drive. The front wheel drive version has 242 horsepower, same newton meters as the 63 kilowatt hour battery pack, and because it is heavier, it also has the same performance. But then the all wheel drive version. The all wheel drive version has 306 horsepower, 600 newton meters of torque and can do 0 to 100 in 5.7 seconds. Yeah, that one is pretty quick. Also, all front wheel drive versions are limited to 160 kilometers an hour. The all wheel drive version can do 200 kilometers an hour. Yeah, that is pretty quick for an electric car. You thought I forgot about the rear of the car, didn't you? But no, of course not. Here is the rear of the Nissan Ariya. And if you ask me, it looks a bit lumpy, but it is not bad looking. And as with all modern cars, yes, also the Nissan Ariya has a rear light that stretches over the whole rear. As I mentioned, the Nissan Ariya reminded me a bit of the Volkswagen ID.4. But is it also as spacious as the Volkswagen ID.4? Well, no, it is not. Where the Volkswagen ID.4 has 540 liters of boot space, the Nissan Ariya has 468 liters of boot space. If you take the front wheel drive version, because if you have the all-wheel drive version, there is an extra electric motor under here, and then you only get 415 liters of boot space. And 415 for such a big car is not that much. Boot space when you put down the rear seats? I have no idea. Really, I don't know. For some reason, Nissan doesn't want to give that number. So have a look and guess for yourself. It is quite spacious. Another downside is that when you want to put down the rear seats, there are no levers here in the boot to do it, so you have to lean forward and you can then put down the rear seats. But at least Nissan did bother to put a frunk in here, unlike the Volkswagen ID.4, right? Yeah, bad news. They did not. I think Nissan was the first car company to introduce a one-pedal drive mode on its car. The Nissan e-pedal on the Nissan Leaf. And the Nissan e-pedal on the Leaf was great. I loved it. But in this Nissan Ariya, there is still an e-pedal mode, but you can already hear it. There is a but. In the Nissan Ariya, the Nissan e-pedal is not a one-pedal drive mode anymore. For some reason, Nissan decided that the e-pedal will always creep along when you lift your foot off the accelerator. I mean, Nissan, why did you do that? On my electric cars, I want a one-pedal drive mode, and it was so amazing on the Leaf, so why not put it on the Ariya? I don't get it. Flippers behind the steering wheel to determine the amount of regeneration? No, no, no. You do have a drive mode, and in drive mode the car regens a little, and then you have a brake mode, and in brake mode the car regens more, and that's it. What about the real world efficiency then? Well, the 63 kilowatt hour version of this car has a WLTP range of 403 kilometers, the 87 kilowatt hour battery pack of 533 kilometers. But those are WLTP numbers. What about the real world efficiency of this car? During my test period, it has been between 0 and 8 degrees Celsius, and while driving 110 to 100 kilometers an hour on the highway, I get a range of around 375 kilometers. Doing more mixed roads, you can get 430 kilometers of range with this car. Driving faster, 120, 130 kilometers an hour, yeah, 300 kilometers, 330, that's it. And I know all those numbers that I just said are not 533 kilometers that Nissan claims that this car can do according to the WLTP. And I think in summer 533 kilometers will be a long stretch. You can get close to 500, but 533, I doubt it. But this is a big car. It is as big as a Volkswagen ID.4. It weighs 2,000 kilos. So I think the range numbers and the efficiency numbers are okay. They are not amazingly efficient, but again, they are okay for this type of car. The interior of the Nissan Ariya is a huge upgrade compared to the Leaf. Where in the Leaf you travel back in time to 2013, here in the Ariya you stay in 2023. I mean, you even have a electrically operated sliding center console. Yeah. I don't know the purpose of this either, but there you have it. Anyway, this is of course the top trim spec, and I don't know how the interior of the smaller battery, lower trim specs look like, but this top trim spec, really nice place to be in. Alcantara here on the dashboard and here in the door, some nice fake leather here in your door, some copper trim here on the air vents, and some fake wood down here on the center console, with a haptic feedback cluster here for your climate control. And yes, I know, haptic feedback is not the most practical. Physical buttons are better, but it looks beautiful, and at least there is a cluster here for your climate control, and it is not all in the screen. There are also haptic feedback buttons here in the center console, for your drive mode, for the Nissan e-pedal, but also for your second glove box. I mean, why do I need a button for my glove box, right? I mean, here's a glove box, the first one, and that one is not that big actually. So why do I need buttons for my second? Well, I can open it electrically. There it comes. Very fancy. And why is this needed was also my first reaction. But then I started thinking, and if you have valuables, you can put them in here. Because if you close this and your valuables are in there and the car is turned off, you cannot open this glove box. So if someone breaks in your car, and I hope that will never happen, but you never know, then they can't reach your valuables because they are in here, which can only be operated when the car is turned on. Clever, huh? Actually a pretty good idea. Other cubby spaces then. While the door pockets are quite big, you do have two cup holders here in the middle, and here on the center armrest is absolutely nothing, only a phone charger, and that is a bit of a disappointment. What about the infotainment system? Well, it is not the fanciest system in the world and not the fastest, but it is okay. It is a okay system to use, middle of the road. It is fine. It is just fine. The navigation software actually is made in collaboration with Google. And no, this is not an Android automotive system, so I don't know how this works, but again, the navigation software is made in collaboration with Google. And what is nice though is that when your trip exceeds your range, the navigation software will plan charging stops, and not all EVs do that. And of course, the system does have support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Alrighty, let's have a look at the rear seats. The seat in front of me is in my typical driving position. I am 1 meter and 85 centimeters. I have loads of knee room. Headroom though is not so great. I can create more headroom by reclining the backrest, but still, again, headroom not so great in this car. I can shove my feet under the seat in front of me, even though the seat in front of me is in its lowest position, so that is good. What is not so good though, and many electric cars have this, it is an electric car, you know that. And because of that, there is a battery pack located here under the floor. Therefore, the floor is quite high, and to create more headroom for the rear seat passengers, the rear seats are quite low in the car. And the result of that is that you do not have any support for your legs on the rear seats. And for some people on longer trips, this may get uncomfortable. Besides that, this is a wide car, so sitting here with 3 people, no problem. You do have a center armrest here in the middle with 2 cup holders. Quality back here is really good. You have a normal USB port, a USB-C port. This version even has heated seats. And you do have some flappy things here to store some stuff. Before I start talking about how this car drives, let me first talk about your driving position in this car. And I can be short about it, it is good. You have good seats, good adjustment in the seats, nice fixed steering wheel, good adjustment in the steering wheel. And also the adjustment of the steering wheel is electric. And also the position of your steering wheel is saved together with your seat memory. So that means if someone else is driving in your car and you get back, you press your seat memory, that means your seat and your steering wheel are back in your perfect position. And that is great. The seats in the car are nice and low in the car, so that means you have the feeling you sit inside the car and not on top of the car, and I do like that. Unless you take the all-wheel drive version of the Nissan Ariya, the Nissan Ariya is front-wheel drive. And also the Ariya weighs around 2,000 kilos. And you can feel both of these things while driving. First, the front wheel drive. All electric cars that I have tested that are front wheel drive and have a bit more power, when you floor the accelerator pedal from a standstill or driving slowly, and then especially on wet roads, the front wheels struggle to find grip. And this Nissan Ariya is no exception. Then the weight. Because a lot of electric cars of this size weigh around 2,000 kilos, maybe even a bit more. But a lot of electric cars can mask this weight really well until you reach the limit of the car. But in this area you can feel the weight much sooner than in some other electric cars. No, this Nissan Ariya is not made for sporty driving. But I have to say though, This car is quiet. It is impressively quiet. And therefore, cruising with this car on the highway, it's a blessing. It is such a nice experience. It is where this car feels at home. And then especially on smoother roads. Why on smoother roads? Because of the suspension. When you have a smooth road, this car feels planted. Again, it is quiet and you feel really comfortable in this car. Get on a rougher road with some speed bumps. The suspension is too hard. You can feel too much what is going on and the car can get a bit bouncy. Then the acceleration, because there are some differences in accelerations of electric cars. A Tesla, for example, touch the accelerator pedal a little bit and boom, it goes away. This Ariya, the power comes very gradually and that adds to the comfortable experience you have with this car. So is the Nissan Ariya the same pioneer as the first generation Leaf was? The short answer to that is no, it is not. But at least it is a modern electric car and it is a good competitor to the other electric cars in its segment. And that was the review of the Nissan Ariya. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please give a like. If you have something to say, leave a comment, and it would be awesome if you subscribed. And then I would like to say now, thank you a lot for watching, and as always, to be continued.